It goes without saying that modern-day video games are incredibly impressive. On a sheer technical level, if you go back to the 2D likes of the 80s and early 90s, then primitive 3D, the leap to millions of voxels combining to animate something like Arthur Morgan's face always leaves me with a genuine sense of wonder. Levels too have been thoroughly overhauled, improved upon and revamped. The term level itself tends to oscillate between area bookended by title screen and set piece, but there's always merit in highlighting specific chunks of video games and celebrating why they're so much fun to play. No matter the genre or scope of the title at hand, as 2019 rolls to a close, itself finalizing a decade where developers began to use jaw-droppingly impressive gaming hardware across the board, there is a metric ton of titles to choose from. For the absolute best though, we're gonna go for real cream of the crop stuff. So let's comb through releases all the way back to 2010, and highlight those awesome times you had a smile plastered ear to ear across your face. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 best video game levels of the decade. Number 10, Sapienza, Hitman Season 1. IO Interactive have low-key outperformed almost all the competition across this generation. Second only to someone like Rockstar when it comes to coding an entire world of interaction and possibility, Hitman's 2016 reboot included the most intricate and mind-blowing levels yet. In a visual sense, they're outstanding, but once you realize just how much you can poke and prod at everything on offer, it turns into something else entirely. Sapienza is easily the best level in the new Hitman titles combined. A coastal Italian town filled with opportunities to cause chaos as religious figures, garden workers, sports coaches, chefs, and everything in between. You can kill your target with everything from a cannon to a fake ghost scare to an exploding golf ball, all while drinking in a luscious environment bursting with memorability. Even better is the discovery of a secret Bond villain-style cave lab housing assault weapons and chemicals, where you can kill another target by spearing them with a stalactite. Hitman Season 1 and 2 are exemplary and recommendable, but Sapienza, it is genuinely jaw-dropping. Number 9, Crossing into Mexico, Red Dead Redemption. Yes, it's hard to pin down what a level even is in an open-world game, but let's go with a general set piece. As everyone remembers Red Dead's iconic crossing from North America down into Mexico. Coming after you've assaulted Fort Mercer and raised the general level of heat around John Marsden considerably, you partner up with character Irish and make for the border. Hunkering down on what amounts to a raft with a handful of crates for cover, it's here where bullets start raining your way, as Irish notes that there are 1 or 2 bounties on his head for reasons unknown. The whole level then turns into a notably frenetic and intense last stand type situation, as although your raft is bobbing on down the river, you're still a sitting duck for enemies to secure every angle of fire around you. Finally making it through nets you a complete tonal shift for the better, as John rides into Mexico alone, with only Jose Gonzalez's gorgeously acoustic so far away for company in the background. Number 8, The Corridor, PT/Silent Hills. What Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro achieved with PT will go down in gaming history as the embodiment of less is more. Literally seeing the pair spookify a corridor, an L-shaped chunk of house where going in you had no idea what was going to happen, PT used this sense of mystery to build over time. Since the whole thing was one big demo for the then-confirmed Silent Hill reboot Silent Hills, gameplay loops revolved around wandering the same stretch over and over. Doors slowly opened and closed, an unborn fetus cried and moaned in a sink, phrases scrawled themselves onto walls, but best/worst of all was the arrival of Lisa. The ghost of your character's wife who'd been killed before the events of the game, Lisa would trigger a jump scare completely at random. Grabbing you from behind and yelling right in your face, the entirety of PT is instantly accessible with a level of repetition that perfectly plays into every big fright. Today, it's only available on PS4 systems that chose to keep the demo after Konami wipes it from the PlayStation Store servers, adding to the title's mystique in a massive way now and forevermore. Genius. Number 7, Getting to Ellie, The Last of Us. The Last of Us doesn't get held up because of its core gameplay, but I've always thought the shooting mechanics, cover system, stealth kills, and crafting within were super engaging and rewarding. Case in point, when Joel decides he's not gonna let the Fireflies operate on and kill Ellie, and decides to save her 1 bullet at a time. What ensues is a manhunt-style tale of one person going up against staggering numbers, only surmounting the odds using careful stealth, the environment, and tons of headshots. Here, the Firefly base inside the hospital plays a major role. There are so many windows, corridors, and flanking opportunities to separate one assailant from another. As a player, you need to focus on everything you've learned from the previous 15 hours into condensed encounters, sticking, moving, or deploying a stealth kill in considered bursts, knowing that it's all in service of the one character you've been striving to protect for the whole game. Number 6, The Jeep Chase, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Naughty Dog have had a blinder this decade. Starting with Uncharted 3 in 2011, we then had The Last of Us in 2013, Uncharted 4 in 2016, and Uncharted Lost Legacy in 2017. And this time next decade, we'll have had The Last of Us Part 2. Overall, it's a far more spaced out set of games than prior generations, but everything was raising the bar tenfold every time. In Uncharted's case, Part 4 introduced us to Nate's brother Sam, who comes to the rescue at one point where the former tries to take on an entire armed convoy by himself. The twist though? Well, in true Naughty Dog fashion, you're gonna play every single second of the whole thing. It's up to you whether you try and commandeer a jeep, take cover where you are, or just advance further. The game's AI reacts to whatever you choose, and the choices keep coming. This scene is an outstanding demonstration of the team's technological chops on PS4 from top to bottom. When Sam finally comes in, you'll have been trading fire and staying on the move for a good 10 minutes. And seeing the brothers Drake take care of business in both the foreground and background is a high point for Uncharted as a franchise. Number 5. The HIRATA Estate. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Sekiro is one of the most brutal titles you can ever play. A game with a pinpoint precise combat system predicated on matching rhythms to block and counter properly, you'll need to study enemy animations to a T before going on the offensive with perfect timing. Though there are many memorable locations across its runtime, including one hell of a duel against a dragon no less, the HIRATA Estate walks a perfect line between horror, stealth, action, and memorable boss battles. Sekiro nails these elements to varying degrees across its runtime, but this flaming, crumbling village brings them together better than anywhere else. You've got hidden items like the flame vent attachment, a general enemy layout that encourages multiple runs to lap up as much sen and XP as possible, tons of secret passages, and 2 bosses, one of which thousands of us never got past. While you'll learn to dominate Juzo the Drunkard, one Madam Butterfly was the cause of so many rage quit compilations on YouTube, it only etched her into the history books with thicker ink. Going from struggling to overcoming this area is everything From Software do better than anyone else, and it doesn't hurt that the HIRATA Estate's aesthetic is instantly iconic and memorable to boot. Number 4. The SERE Kit Escape. Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 is a never-ending greatest hits of wall-to-wall bangers. Creators Respawn Entertainment were formed after Infinity Ward's Jason West and Vince Zampella left Call of Duty to do their own thing, and the prerogative? Literally think of as many fun ideas as possible and then write a story to tie them all together. It gave us firefights atop a conveyor belt as houses were being assembled all around, a time-traveling sequence where you take on 2 sets of enemies in 2 timelines simultaneously, and this immaculate final sequence. Now, so many games have done the Super Bowl sprint-style final run. Halo 3 comes to mind, for example, but here you've got Best Bud BT7274 giving his life for yours, asking you to look inside his head for the key to survival. Do so, and what do you find? A frickin' auto-targeting machine pistol that lets you fell entire groups of soldiers just by pulling the trigger. Besides the fact this pistol is available as a multiplayer perk once you're high level enough, seriously, Titanfall 2 is the best FPS of the generation, getting it as you escape the final facility is icing on the cake. Wall running, sliding, leaping over enemies in one giant bound, all done with shells falling left and right as you dominate the competition, it's a sequence that belongs in first-person shooter royalty. Number 3. Eventide Island. Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was the biggest risk to Zelda gameplay since the second title in the series. Taking everything fans expected, dungeons, item-based progression, even ditching the iconic green tunic, all of that was thrown out, replaced by a repertoire of abilities that you'd fully acquired by the end of the tutorial. It created a different sensation altogether, one of physics-based experimentation and improvisation. I mention all of this because the second you step on Eventide Island, all your supplementary gear goes away, and you're left with that same base set of actions that you've had since the beginning. With no weapons, shields, or potions, how do you then contend with enemies and the environment? Eventide is a masterful example of a developer confident in how you'd played the game over time, stripping everything away to challenge you in the most direct way. Cutting down trees to cross beds of water, defeating enemies by rolling boulders down hills rather than fighting them, Eventide is kinda the only Zelda dungeon in the whole game, and it's tucked away at the very bottom of the whole map. Number 2. Assimilation. Inside. Conveying just how filthy, grimy, and powerfully affecting Inside's final moments are is nigh on impossible through voice, because it's a build-up and release from this game's oppressive atmosphere. To this day, developers Playdead have never officially explained just what the hell the game is really about, but that's kind of the point. All that matters is how you feel when playing it, and the entirety of Inside is mired in this Orwellian feel, an industrial environment with one small boy making his way through, only to realize office workers and officials inside the game's factory are staring at a horrifying blob of humans connected as one. The game's final level involves assimilating with this creation and wreaking violent, bloody havoc. It's a perfect visual metaphor for hierarchical insurrection, and the rush of power that you feel controlling the mob is unlike anything else. Inside remains one of this generation's finest masterpieces, and it's all from moments like this. And number 1, the Suicide Mission, Mass Effect 2. Level of the decade, it is easily the Mass Effect 2 Suicide Mission. The apex of everything Mass Effect represented as a franchise, you had beloved companions, your driven main character, an overarching narrative centered on saving the world with one risky action, all with you behind the controls. Characters could die, stories altered, and branching pathways taken to ensure victory. BioWare coded an ending where only Shepard makes it out alive, alongside one where no one does, leaving that particular player to live with the consequences. Personally speaking, Mass Effect 2 is the best entry in the saga, and it's directly because of its through-line structure. Everything that you'd been doing for tens of hours beforehand, every bond, character detail, and mission undertaken, all factored back into why everyone was coming together in the first place. The goal of stopping the Collectors would take everything you and your crew had, leaving Mass Effect 2 as a masterpiece of decade-defining proportions. At least, that's what I think. Let me know your own picks for the best levels of the decade down in the comments below. And please don't forget to check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.